main headlines, we have the Chinese protests, which might lead to the reopening of China after almost 3 years in lockdown. We also have the Earthshot Prize 2022 and the 5 winners that Prince William has announced in Boston, and the FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar, as well as the main news of it this week. After that, we have the Hungry for History segment, in which we will be talking about the African American Civil Rights Movement. In the Persona segment, you will be learning about Rosa Parks, and during the Crazy Culture segment, you will be learning about Mona Lisa and some fun facts I bet you didn't know. After that, we have the secondary headlines, which are the Chinese former president who passed away at the age of 96, as well as the new Alzheimer's drug that was just tested out and soon might be out in public, as well as the shooting in a religious school that killed more than 15 people in Afghanistan. This week for the Spiritual Career segment, we are interviewing Rafa Hakimi, an incredible person who works with refugees, and I really hope you enjoy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share and comment below because we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers and we're also right before 700 subscribers. After a fire that killed 10 people and injured many last week in China, a whole row of protests started around the country, protesting against the government's zero COVID rule in China. For almost 3 years, China has been under constant lockdown and quarantines, and they haven't opened up completely yet. There are still so many measures even though the pandemic has ended in most of the world. People were getting really tired and the unemployment also increased. The economy in China was failing and people who were in quarantine so suddenly also found themselves without food and basic needs. Now it looks like the government will start changing the rules because most of the population of China has started protesting and is tired of this now. In September, there was a bus that crashed and killed 27 people. That also had a few protests because that bus was transporting people to a quarantine facility. And in the fire, many people could not leave because of the quarantine rules that meant people had to stay at home even though there was a fire. Now, Xi Jinping, the president of China, has also hinted to the European Council that China will start easing its measures and start opening up soon. It was another eventful week in Qatar 2022 World Cup. There were many shocking results and wonderful goals by many teams, although some got eliminated. The round of 16 started on 3rd December. France and Portugal made it into the round of 16, and Argentina, even after losing to Saudi Arabia, made it in after winning against Poland and Mexico. Something shocking was that Cameroon won against Brazil on Friday 1-0. And a huge thing was that there was a goal made by Japan, which confirmed that Germany is out of the competition. This goal by Japan was debated on, and the VAR finally decided that it was in. Now we're going to see the round of 16 and see who passes on to the quarterfinals. Prince William announced the 5 winners of the Earthshot Prize 2022 in Boston last week. He created these awards to find new ideas from around the world to help save the planet. Each of the winners will receive £1 million or $1.2 million to help develop and fund their creation. The winners came from 5 different countries: India, Kenya, UK, Australia, and Oman. In Kenya, a group of people made a stove using biomass energy instead of solid fuels. The stove runs on burning charcoal, wood, or sugarcane. In India, someone created a greenhouse in a box, which helps farmers protect their crops from the weeds, the weather, and the wasps, as well as the other pests. In Australia, a group of people made a training program to train 60 women on how to conserve and save the ocean, as well as its ecosystem and wildlife inside of it. In the UK, 2 people created a way to make proper good plastic that is actually biodegradable and made out of seaweed. They're going to be using their creation to start replacing plastic in several parts of the country and soon the world. And in Oman, a few people found out a way to make stone, a very common stone, out of carbon, and so it's an effective way to store carbon. Hi everybody, this week on A9 News Kids Hungry for History segment, I'm going to be talking about the African American Civil Rights Movement. I really hope you enjoy. The African American Civil Rights Movement was an ongoing fight for racial equality for over 100 years after the Civil War. Leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks paved the way for non-violent protests, which led to changes in the law. The Civil Rights Movement was like a continuation of the abolitionist movement before the Civil War. Abolitionists were people that thought slavery was morally wrong and wanted it to come to an end. Before the Civil War, many of the northern states had outlawed slavery, and during the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln freed the enslaved with the Emancipation Proclamation. After the Civil War, many southern states treated African Americans as second-class citizens. They wanted to separate schools, restaurants, restrooms, and transportation based on the color of a person's skin. Other laws prevented many black people from voting as well, and during the 1950s and early 1960s, there were many significant events in the fight of civil rights African Americans. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson, and this act outlawed segregation and discrimination based on race, national background, and gender. In 1965, another law was passed called the Voting Rights Act. This law said that the citizens should not be denied the right to vote based on their race. Thank you, and I really hope you enjoyed. Hi everybody, this week for the Persona segment, I'm going to be talking about Rosa Parks. I hope you enjoy. Rosa Parks grew up in the southern United States in Alabama. During this time, the city of Montgomery was segregated. This meant that things were different for white people and black people. Growing up, Rosa lived with racism and she was always scared of the members of the KKK, who had burned down black schools, houses, and churches. Rosa and her husband Raymond wanted to do something about it, so they joined the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. On December 1st, 1955, she made her famous stand on the bus. She had settled in on her seat, and the bus told her that she could not sit down because there were white people who wanted to sit. The other African Americans were also told to stand up, but Rosa refused. The bus driver said that he would call the police, and Rosa did not move. Soon the police showed up and she was arrested and charged with breaking a segregation law. She was also told to pay a fine, although she refused to pay, saying that she was not guilty and that the law was illegal. That night, many African American leaders got together and decided to boycott the city buses. This meant that the African Americans would no longer ride on the buses. This boycott continued for 381 days, and finally, the US Supreme Court ruled out segregation laws, and they decided to change many things. She became a symbol to many African Americans of the fight for equal rights, and she was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal as well as the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I really hope you enjoyed and learned amazing things about Rosa Parks. Hi everybody, this week for the Crazy Culture segment, I'm going to be talking about Mona Lisa and some amazing facts about the Mona Lisa. I hope you enjoyed. The Mona Lisa is believed to be a portrait of Lisa Gherardini, who is the spouse of a rich silk vendor in Italy. Mona is actually a word from the Italian language that means madame or ma'am. Did you know that Mona Lisa is surprisingly small for such a famous painting? It only measures 30 inches by 21 inches, so 77 centimeters by 53 centimeters, which is really small. The painting actually uses several unique art techniques to draw the viewer in. Did you know that Leonardo da Vinci's skill is sometimes referred to as the Mona Lisa effect? The Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre Museum in 1911 and it wasn't recovered for over 2 years. She is now in bulletproof glass just to protect from future vandals. Did you know that the Mona Lisa wasn't painted on canvas but actually painted on a popular plank? It says that Leonardo da Vinci's right hand became partially paralyzed in 1517, right before he could finish the Mona Lisa. So the lady's lack of eyebrows is evidence for this theory. However, some historians also say that the no eyebrow look was just fashionable in that time. Thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed these facts about Mona Lisa. This week for the Prayer to Career segment on ANN News Kids, we are interviewing Vafa Hakimi, an incredible person who works with many different things, but mainly in refugee camps in Malawi. I really hope you enjoy.
My name is Vafa, and I am a social worker. I was born in Malawi, but my parents are from Iran. So I'm part of both worlds and also a global citizen. I think that's the best way to put it.
That's amazing.
Wow, that's amazing. And you said you're a social worker. Can you tell me more about that?
Absolutely. So I think if I put social work into very simple terms, I would say that it's about making life better for individuals, for groups, and for the whole community. So I think the job of a social worker is to find out from people how their lives can be made better. And sometimes that might be one-on-one, it might be with one person. And so it might be issues around their education or their mental health, or their relationships. And sometimes it's with a whole group of people. So you might be working with a group who has a particular problem, like children who live on the street. And sometimes it's with the whole community. It's issues that the whole community faces, such as access to water or crime in the area. And so what you try to do is you just play a role to help everyone make their own lives better. And that's what we try to do. We want people to do the actual work and in making their lives better, but we're just here to facilitate it.
Wow, that's really nice. It's a nice way to put that. And did you always want to become a social worker, or could you tell us a bit more about your journey?
I can. So I didn't even know what social work was until the year I started university. So when I was a child and I was growing up, I didn't know social work was a thing, but I loved helping people. And so I know that's something that my family will always tell me, that even when I was 2 years old, I would stand and try to wash the dishes because I just wanted to be helpful. But I didn't know that helping people could be a job. So when I was younger, I had a great plan for what I wanted to be. So I knew that on Mondays, I wanted to be a teacher, and on Tuesdays, I wanted to be a doctor, and on Wednesdays, I wanted to be a teacher, and Thursdays, I wanted to be a gardener, and I thought I could be everything all at once. But then when I grew older, I realized that actually you need to choose and you need to study to become something. But I think what's really nice is that now that I'm a social worker, I can also still be a teacher, because that's part of being a social worker. And I have also been a teacher outside. And I also want to continue to become a nurse. And so you can actually do more than one thing. And that's what I really like, is that you don't have to just choose one job. You can do more than one.
Wow, that's really
incredible.
nice.
So you said that you grew up in Malawi, and can you tell us about the situation there?
Sure. So Malawi is a very small country. And if you look at the map, it sits in the hand of Mozambique. So Mozambique looks like a hand, and Malawi sits right in the middle there. And it's got a big, beautiful lake. And it's got very wonderful, friendly people. And it's a really peaceful country, but it's also a very poor country. So more than 50% of the people in Malawi are living in quite extreme poverty. So it is a country that faces a lot of challenges, but it's also very beautiful.
Wow, that's really nice. And regarding the work and social work that you do, could you tell us a bit? Could you tell us a bit more about what you specialize in? Whether it's refugees or nurses or mental health?
Absolutely. So when I first graduated, or while I was still a student, when you're a social worker, when you're training, you get to do a practical, which is really cool, because while you're learning, you're also practicing what you're doing. And I worked in a hospital then with people who have spinal cord injury. So they've become paralyzed because they've injured their spine. So that's mainly helping people adjusting and accepting their situation. But then I did actually move on, and for 3 years I was working in a refugee camp. It's called Dzaleka, and it's a refugee camp in Malawi that has refugees from Congo and Burundi and Rwanda and Somalia and Ethiopia. And that's where we were working with quite a few things, but one thing was mental health. So we were offering social work assessments and counseling for people, but we also worked with helping people try to earn an income. And so we were trying to work on all the different needs, because you don't just one need.
Of course.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And finally, what is your advice to kids?
So I think I would say two things. I would say the first thing is never lose your joy for life. always approach life with that curiosity and that joy and excitement that we have as children. Because as we grow older, I think adult life tries to push that joy down. But if you hold onto it, life is so much more beautiful and you do so many more things. And the second thing is exactly what I said earlier. You don't just have to be one thing. You can be many, many different things.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been so nice talking to you and
Yeah.
learning more about social work and what you do.
Yeah, you're an amazing person. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've loved talking and I can't wait to watch all of your videos on YouTube.
Thank you so much.
Have a
Okay.
wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Jiang Zemin, the former Chinese president, died at the age of 96 on November 30th last week. He was the president of China from 1993 to 2003, serving 10 years. He's known for many things, but he's best known for representing a time where US and China were actually much closer than they are today, when they had a better relationship. He also has many nicknames related to toads, which is why in China he has the nickname Uncle Toad. As many people are trying to send their condolences on social media during this time, there are lots of censors in China. So in China, the only comments you can see about his death are ones that the government has issued. Now, some people in China have started posting pictures of book covers with messages and using some specific words to bypass these censors. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia and it's the most common one. It affects 55 million people worldwide today. For decades, scientists have been trying to figure out a way to treat Alzheimer's, but they haven't succeeded until now. Now, a new drug has been potentially successful. It's already been tested, and although its effects are very small, it might work.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together.
Scientists say that it will slow the effects of brain damage caused by Alzheimer's. And although it won't make the patient's life longer, it will definitely improve the quality of life. Hopefully, this drug will come out soon after the tests and it'll work. If it does, it'll help so many people worldwide and it'll make people have a better life. In northern Afghanistan, there was a deadly school shooting in a religious school that killed more than 15 people. Most of these were between the ages of 9 to 15 and they were hurt really badly. Ever since the Taliban took over Afghanistan, there have been loads of explosions. And most of those were exploded by the ISIS-K group, which is against the Taliban. September, there was a deadly shooting that also killed 54 people in an exam hall full of students taking their university exams. Now it's becoming a real problem there, but they don't have much help.